Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello and welcome to this Friday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am pumped. We're going to Game 7, people. Edmonton Oilers play La Bamba, baby. Yeah. Oh, I'm pumped up for tonight. I'm also pumped up because one of my favorite guests, Teodora Hadjiyska, is here tonight to talk about the Dyatlov Pass. She's got beautiful hair tonight. Well, it's tonight for us, 7 a.m. for her. Her hair looks gorgeous. Gorgeous, I tell you. And we tell all of you hello, including SJ in the gold medal position, Tim Mothman in his goatee sharing a silver, race fan with a bronze medal, hi Chris 716, Mama Susan, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, and Brown Dwarf. How y'all doing? John Coroner, that's right. All I need to say is 5-1, baby. 5-1. Bring on Game 7. Little Timmy in the backwoods. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you here. Jorgensen, nice to see you. Flat 6, Corey, and Noble Patrick. Noble Patrick will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Michelle Eilis, I love you, my friend. I love you. Love your big hubby, too. I know he's afraid of El Avni Volador, but let me tell you, when those two get in the wrestling ring, I feel sorry for him. I do. I'm scared for him. I will be in his corner when he's fighting El Avni Volador. I promise. The Navajo warrior could be in trouble, even though he bench presses like 600 pounds 200 times in 4 minutes. Oh, Millennium, my man. How are you? Good to see you. As we continue on with the roll call, Lee the Bee and Les Paul Holland strumming away on his Gibsons. Yeah, I love his guitar collection. Moving on, purple-haired Pixie Laura. Nice to see you. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Good morning, Skip to Malou, Ann B, and Ozzy Ange. Nice to see you all. Paul Demon, thank you for coming on in. And Walking Likely, welcome to SOR Chat. Lulu Bell, how are you? Cosmic Joe, thank you very much for that lovely super chat. I very much appreciate your nightly support of Spaced Out Radio, Joe. Thank you very much. Commonwealth Andrew, good morning. As we say hello next to Pam Harris and Jeremy Jones, good to see you. And Damian K, thank you for coming on in. Keith McCormick, how you doing, my man? Thank you for joining us. Paris Solo, nice to see you. Hi, Michael Fontaine. Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got Oilers. Yes, you do. Jerry O'Brien, how you doing? Swamp Gas Jenkins, good to see you. Jennifer, or is it Yennefer? Are you a soft J or a hard J? Please let me know. All right. Bombshell Bomber, Cliff Sy, and Daniela. Welcome all. Continuing with our roll call here, we say hello to Marlene and Vash the Impaler. Good to see you both. Rono what's happening? Jessica S. Very much appreciate you coming on in. Kitty Caddywhack, thank you for joining us. Greatly appreciate it. As we continue on with our roll call, waiting for a few more people to come in. You know what? We're going to get the radio side started here. Hold on one second. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have Teodora Hadjiyska on from Dyatlovpass.com. We're talking about the infamous Dyatlov Pass incident tonight. It's going to be a great show as we await the arrival of Bill WD-40 to lube us up for tonight's show. And Jennifer says she's a hard J. All right. Michael Gutierrez, how you doing? Good to see you as we are in roll call right now. I've been so excited about the Edmonton Oilers Game 6 win that I've sped through roll call way too fast, and now I'm waiting for people to come in. That's where I am. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So you're good to go there. Go shopping. We got a great site. We got 30 seconds until we launch. If you haven't heard Teodora Hadjiyska on Spaced Out Radio before, or one of her interviews talking about Dyatlov Pass, you are in for an absolute treat tonight. Her research is impeccable. She's won awards for her research, and she has great hair. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it in a moment. But until then, do me a favor, everybody. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. Thank you very much for tuning us in live. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at spacedoutradio.com, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight. Teodora Hadjiyska is here to talk about the Dyatlov Pass and an update on information that she has about this near 70-year-old case. Then, in hour 3, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. After that, Olaf Phillips is going to join us as we are going to talk a little bit about this strange email I received. Yeah. Remember earlier this week, I said that we got a strange email? Yeah, we're going to get into that. It's going to involve Alan Greenfield and so much more. You got to stay tuned for hour 3 to listen to that. All right, one of my good friends of this show, to me, Teodora Hadjiyska, just to be blunt, is probably one of my top 10 interviews I have ever done. I've done over 2,000 shows on Spaced Out Radio in the last 9.5 years, and this is one of my favorites. So when I messaged her, said, hey, I need you on the show again, I don't think it was like 10 minutes later that she got a hold of me. She's like, let's do it. And I love her for it. I really do. Now, Teddy, just so you know, is one of the world's leading experts on the Dyatlov Pass incident. She is the author of 1079, The Overwhelming Force of Dyatlov Pass. Her research is published on Dyatlovpass.com. She is the first person to translate the case files and act as the conduit between the Russian sources and English-speaking followers on the case. Her lifestyle is one of a traveler, explorer, and mountaineer, and she's a fan of coming on Spaced Out Radio. Teodora Hadjiyska, thank you again for coming on Spaced Out Radio. How are you? It's morning time for you. It's 7 a.m. where you are.
Yes, I'm in Bulgaria, Sofia. I'm born Bulgarian, but I live all over the place. So I just flew in 2 days ago. It just happens that I'm doing the interview with you here. But I live in the Alps currently. There is a lot of Sasquatch sightings there too. And I often go to Vegas. So when we do the interview from Vegas, I'm in the similar time zone, but now it's too early for me. So this is as good as it gets. That's what you see is all I can do for you at 7 in the morning Saturday.
Well, do me a favor. Next time you're in Las Vegas, I expect a phone call. Not for an interview, but telling me when you're there so I could get my butt down there and party with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
See, the one
Wait,
thing
baby.
the one thing you may not know about old Davy here is Vegas is like the second home to him. So
Same to me.
anytime,
Yeah. I used
and
to live in the States for more than 10 years, so this is where I ended up in Vegas before I moved back to Europe. And
well,
it was only
anytime
to start travel around the world. So I don't stay in one place. It's like I have a buck up my, yeah. I can't stay in one place. I move all the time. And well, let's get back to the Dyatlov Pass. Actually, what got me into this, I was moving a lot. I was on the peak of my travel, life, career, not career, because I don't get paid to travel. But this is how I decided to do it. It just moved from place to place, no return ticket. It's not like my vacation because I don't work. So I got in trouble into a near-death car accident while visiting a active volcano, but not the volcano almost killed me, but a runaway truck that I hitchhiked. And I got very severe injuries. I was called a priest in Indonesia because they couldn't help me. I had flail chest, broken ribs, no scapula, the blood in the brain. I was seeing zombies. I didn't know if I have already passed away. And all they could do for me, they couldn't open my chest. So they called me a priest that didn't even speak English. So I was stuck with a guy with very warm eyes that was looking very kindly down on me. But anyway, the first English speaking person that I saw in the ER told me, "You look like you have been brought from the Dyatlov Pass." And that was the first time I heard the name Dyatlov. I didn't know anything about it. But because we started the conversation about lifestyle, traveling, mountaineering, and so on, I had to spend a lot of time in and out surgeries because I survived. So after a lot of prayers in language I don't understand, I did not die. And I checked who is Dyatlov and what's that place, Dyatlov Pass. And this is how I got sucked into this rabbit hole that is, and since then I'm Alice in Wonderland. I tried to make sense of what I'm reading, but back then, that was 12 years ago, and I spent a lot of time bedridden because I had to have a lot of surgeries. And I know Russian because I'm born Bulgarian from the year when we learned Russian in school. So it was in my mind dormant, but I understood and read the case files, the sources. And then I saw that this is missing piece of information that the English speaking world doesn't know about, because the only movie back then was Yeti, the Russian killer lives, or something like that, which is about Yeti. And this, I wanted to explain, why are you so fascinated with my hair? This is because you like Sasquatch and Yeti. Because skipping forward 12 years ahead, um, since I became very famous explaining the Dyatlov Pass, I was invited by Discovery Channel to go on location in when that happened in February. So because I didn't know how it works, what they're supposed to provide me with, and I was never been in temperatures minus 50 degrees Celsius, which is like in Everest, on Everest. If you buy equipment like that, you became a pro, and I'm not a pro. So when they ask me, but when they invite an expert, usually experts have their own equipment with all the advertisement. With they're used to this equipment, so they don't need rental. And I was afraid that maybe something will take me off the list as an expert because I knew that they're shopping around. So when they asked about equipment, I said, I'm so desperate to go on location that if you don't provide me with any, you can shoot real time how they died, because I'm going to freeze to that. And I can save you money because you don't need headwear. If you're going to shoot again Yeti, I'll be the Yeti. Just give me the furry costume, and I don't need anything about a hood for the head. I'll be Yeti all over, because all they can shoot is a silhouette. Now, seriously, even Yeti applies to the Dyatlov group, because there is a blurry photo that came from the dead, dead hiker's camera, that the Americans, the Yetis, this is the Yeti, this is what was following them, this is what they took a picture of, and Yeti was around. Either warning, because you can, Dave, you can tell the story about the Yeti warning you about the UFO. I mean, Yeti is around everywhere. There's something strange happening. Usually Yeti is around, but we only see it as a silhouette. Same in the Dyatlov Pass. So how do you want to continue this? Do you tell your story, or do I explain the gist of the incident, what happened on the Dyatlov Pass?
For you, this has become a passion over the last number of years, trying to solve this mystery that is ever solved. Let's give a little bit of a history lesson here for audiences who may not be familiar with what happened at Dyatlov Pass in Russia, or the USSR at that time.
Okay, people die in the mountains. We know that. I mean, there are so many ways to die in the mountain. Basically, people that head to the mountains, they have this tingle that they're taking a risk. That's obvious. And back then, okay, so the incident with the Dyatlov group, we call it Dyatlov group because the leader of the group is Igor Dyatlov. So this is why it's called Dyatlov group. And after that, Dyatlov Pass. It's named after the leader of the group. There were so many groups that were going that time, but this particular tragedy happened in 59 in the Ural, northern Ural mountains, which is, okay, Ural is a very long mountain range, and there is like south, middle, north, subpolar. So it ranges mild mountains to the really Siberian polar temperatures and weather. So they were like in the middle, northern Urals. But what's difficult and dangerous in these mountains is that they're very remote. We're talking about Siberia, and we're talking about Russia, which is vast country. And back then it was Soviet Union. And that's very important that it was Soviet Union, because the regime had its peculiar ways to manipulate people's mind. And they were, well, now I know that this was a paranoia, that the big brother is watching and you should not do wrong things because you're going to be made a scapegoat. But anyways, these people, these particular people, were very young, very charismatic, very energetic, top shape. They were students, they were smart, they were prepared. The trek was nothing out of their classification, qualification, because they were tourist categories. So they have been to treks like that. And what makes this tragedy different from any other death in the mountain, and we're talking multiple deaths because there were no survivors, is that they were found, okay, so they didn't return where they were supposed to. And because of the time of the politics back then, it was the 21st Congress of the party, Khrushchev made exemplary safe and rescue operation and sent a lot of helicopters, military, a lot of people. Usually this is not how it's handled when someone is missing in the mountain, but because the relatives sent a telegram that was publicized to Khrushchev, say, find our kids, our children, save our children. So he made this as a gesture to show how much he cares. They died when it was the high peak of the Congress. So the operation went, they went searching. So what's interesting about the incident is that the bodies were found mile away from the tent. The tent was in a very windy, uncomfortable place where they were not supposed to pitch the tent there. But the weird thing, one of the weirdest thing about this case, which even to this day, no one can explain, so everybody is convinced, is the tent was cut from inside with a knife, big openings. Now, from the very beginning, I want to explain that there are things that the searchers testify that they saw, and there are things that were sent to a forensic expert to make analysis. And the tent was one of these things that were analyzed. Not many things were analyzed, but we're sure that the tent was cut from inside, big openings like doors so people can get out of the tent. So we have a cut from inside tent. And then we have footprints, which is weird because the bodies were found a month after they supposedly died. And the date of their deaths is marked by the last entries in the diaries. We have a lot of diaries, a lot of pictures. To the very end, they were joking, they were shooting each other, playing. It was really fun going, nothing foreboding in this track, indicating that there is trouble, that there were trouble. And then suddenly everything stops. So the last entry is from February 1st, and then nothing. So the bodies were found a month after that. And these footprints were preserved for all this time, going from the tent to the bodies. And these footprints are in a place where there is storm. On certain protruding places, the snow cannot accumulate because there is always a wind that, even if it's not snowing from the sky, it picks up the snow from the ground. So you're in a whiteout. You can't see anything. I mean, most of the time, especially at the end of the day and during the night, there is always wind. And these steps were preserved for 1 month. I mean, I know that they could be preserved for day 2, 3, a week, 2 weeks, but a month to me it's very strange. So, and then we have the bodies. The bodies were underdressed, some butt naked. I mean, butt naked, but they were in a different degree of clothing. But none of them was with clothes that you would go out of the tent in that state. Like they were dressed as if they were sleeping inside the tent, and some of them were, their clothes were torn to the skin. And also some of the clothes were exchanged between the dead. But what's most how to say dramatic about this incident is that 3 of the hikers were with traumas that could be caused only by high velocity moving blunt object. So the coroner wrote in the autopsy report that they were hit like by something like a fast moving car, but there's no car there. They're like 300 miles away from the nearest road, and no car, no high altitude where they could have fallen from, or a boulder or a rock, something to hit them. Anyways, they were found in a creek, in a very shallow creek. So what caused these traumas? But to me personally, what's even more strange was that only 3 of them had traumas that were incompatible with life. Like 2 were with flail chest like me, hence they brought from the Dyatlov Pass, and 1 with caved in skull. We're not talking about fractured skull. It's not like you got hit by a hammer, although you die from a hammer. His skull was caved in. You can't achieve that with a stone, rock, or something like another person to hit you in the head. And you cannot fall with your own height and weight and cave in your skull this way. You have to fall from a like 8th floor or something has to hit you. But the interesting thing is the shape of all of the flail chest and the skull. It's kind of a round because it has 2 fracture lines, and it's supposed to be something flat and white and with a very high speed. So this much we know. Then, thanks to the unprecedented search and rescue operation, we have a full investigation. We have the case files, we have the autopsy reports, we have the testimonies. And although they say it was classified, well, it was classified for 30 years, and then the perestroika and the glasnost is. I mean, now we have everything, but do we have everything? Because it seems like we have too much. There are some things that are, there's discrepancies. One person says something, the other says something different. They don't match. Like when the tent, who found the tent first? Even pilots of the helicopters say that they have seen the tent and bodies in a different place earlier that they were officially discovered. We have nurse from the nearest morgue that claims that she washed 6 bodies before even the group was missing. Even the date on the cover of the case files is 2 weeks before they were missing. I mean, they were already dead for a week, but no one knew that they were missing, because how it worked in 59 is that they, when they headed towards the mountain, they sent a telegram to their sports club that they're on their way, that they're going into the wild. Part of the difficulties that was that they didn't have any connection, no radio connection, no GPS, not even maps, because it was the Cold War, so thorough maps were forbidden, not to fall into the wrong hands. So they were asking the foresters and the local people how to get how far the taiga spread, so they have to pick up wood and carry it if they want to cook and warm themselves. So there were no tower maps, and so they send a telegram when they head to the mountain, from the last post office, and they have a very strict plan that has to be approved by a committee. It's a very strict regime. You can't go to the mountain without a permit. The sports committee checks the classification, I mean, they have tourist booklets, right, that you have a category what you can do. They approve the group and everything. So when you come back, so they have like 12 days or 14 days, because the weather varies. You can get into a storm or something else, get lost, something like that. So they're supposed to send the first telegram on their way back at a certain date. Then you add plus 2-3 days. Then you add the fact that they're all on vacation. So they were not very alarmed by the fact that they were not coming back on time. Also, other groups were coming back with way much severe accidents, and they were surviving. Like one of them burned their tent on the second day of a 2-3 week trek. So how do you continue in Siberia without a tent? But they did it, and they ascended peaks in wintertime for the first time. This is what the Dyatlov group also wanted to do. Their final destination was Mount Otorten, which had been climbed in summertime, but never in wintertime. These mountains are not like picturesque, something like, the Alps or whatever. They all look like that. So one peak you can't tell one peak from the other. It's like a sea of white or green, depending on the season. But, well, one of these, hills is taller than the other hill, and it's named, and it's called Mount Otorten. They never got to the Mount Otorten.
Teddy, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Teddy Hadjiyska from Dyatlovpass.com. When we return from the show, more about what happened in the Ural Mountains and the deaths of all of these people in weird, mysterious circumstances that we know as the Dyatlov Pass. Stay tuned, everybody. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. I am loving this. Loving this.
I'm just getting started.
You're the best. You're just so knowledgeable about this entire subject. I mean, just the fact that you're able to just rattle it off just like that. It's amazing.
So I'm not live right now, right?
Well, on the radio we are on commercial break. YouTube can and our podcast can still hear us.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Dave, I just found what I'm good at, but I didn't force it. Things started revealing themselves to me, and this is what keeps me full time on the subject. It is really not rewarding if you just spend more than 10 years only reading something and you don't make progress into solving it, understanding it. My initial goal was just this translate all the documents, but then outside the case files are also a lot of information. So that grew up, snowballed into many documents. I have translated more than 1,000 documents. Some of them are written by hand with a pencil protruding through the paper, and you have to transcribe them. And I'm not the only one working on this. This is the interesting thing about the Dyatlov community, Dyatlov case, obsessive as we call ourselves. Everyone is pitching in, and everyone is very happy when a new bit of information comes in. And then the moment we starting putting it into a different scenarios, we start arguing with each other and confronting each other. But we are, like, what I wanted to say is not that the documents were laying around and no one read them. They knew them. They knew everything about these documents and the diaries. But the texture of these files is not complete, and there are a lot of holes. For example, every document that made it into the case files was typed by machine, by human, and we never see the scans of the originals. So we don't know if a mistake could be added by the person who typed them, because they were looking at a wet paper that was falling apart, written by hand with a pencil in minus temperatures without a light, and making words out. So we don't know if everything is correct. Also, some of the pages seems incomplete. Like, I mean, we don't know even which page is after which page, because to the person who was typing the case files, he saw some sheets of paper in front of him or her and was trying its best to just preserve them. But the originals, we even the searchers, the contemporaries and the people that were on the scene, they did not see these papers, and some of them are very important, like the last paper that I said that was dated by the Dyatlov group. No one
Yes.
saw it. Also the diaries, the two diaries that had most of the information from the last days, also we have seen only the typed copies that were in the case files. There is, but there are a lot of things. People that were at the location also kept diaries, the searchers. And recently, such a diary was found in a basement, and that person was allowed to copy a diary that we haven't seen. And it is a true copy of what's in the case files. So every time someone says that the diaries were doctored, and there is a whole fashion that all of the photos are also manipulated. But how do you manipulate the films? Because to this day we have the films, the negatives of the photos. So
Hold on right there, because we are going to come back from break here. So thank you to Patrick and Joe for the amazing super chats. Greatly appreciate the love. Remember, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag. Hi, Vanessa. How are you? Here we go. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate you tuning us on in. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From Dyatlov we're looking into the mystery of the Dyatlov Pass from the 1950s, where a bunch of kids, college students, were going to go ski in the backwoods of the Ural Mountains. They all died, and to this day, it's a big mystery. Teodora Hadjiyska is one of the leading researchers in the world on this subject. Teddy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me for the fourth time, I believe. Not that I'm counting.
I'm just happy you keep saying yes to come on.
I will always say yes to you, Dave.
I love it. I love you for it.
Well, I was just awarded by the Russians too. I'm not just the conduit of information in English. I'm coming from Moscow right now, and I was awarded the Russian Detective 2024 for the book in the category of documentary detective, which means that our book is not a fiction. And I got the prize. So that means that it's not just, I'm not just the most knowledgeable person who speaks English. I mean, not that this language is my native, but that I can explain things in English. I'm also quite knowledgeable about the information period. And the book that you mentioned, 1079, I will explain the title because it's part of the case files. It's translated from Russian in English, Spanish in German, and in all languages, the title is 1079, the numbers. So why 1079? I'll get to the title of this interview, Legends of the Dyatlov Pass. When people talk about it, because it's difficult to pronounce Dyatlov, which by the way means woodpecker. So if you see translation by Google, you will see a lot of woodpecker. Dyatlov, they usually call the incident Death Mountain, and this is also the name of the book, of books, of movies, of everything. So they call it Death Mountain. Why? Because the tent was found on this hill that the local Mansi are calling Holatsa Hill, which means Dead Mountain, and it's called Dead Mountain, the same reason why it's called Dead Sea, Dead Desert, Dead whatever, because nothing grows there, because it's so windy and it's nothing goes to no life. I mean, no animals, nothing grows there. Well, I saw that there's grass on the top of the Dead Mountain, so-called Dead Mountain. But anyways, this is the true name of this particular hill where they died. So hence the legends that this is a dangerous place where many die. And then the next step is that they all died by 9. But back in 59, This place where they died, in all the documents and all maps, were just marked like 1079, because this is how tall the hill is. This is what you will see on the maps. It's 1079. This is in meters, the altitude of that hill. This is where they died, that mountain. And they were going to Utorten, which you will find called "Don't Go There." That's not true. People, locals, anyway, anybody in the area says don't go there because it's very windy, and because the weather really changes around that particular hill. You can have a good weather all around, but on that particular hill it's going to be storming and the lightnings, and it's always windy, and it's just don't go there. But Otorten means, there is, by the way, a hill nearby that's also called Otorten, means in Mansi the goose nest or the gate of winds, something like that. So it's not don't go there. But still, the place is very strange. I mean, I don't have a direct line to the paranormal, or I don't have visions. I haven't seen Yeti, UFO or anything. I mean, I don't want to disappoint you. I have the hair, right? So, um, but on that particular place, people experience strange things. And I'm not talking about the ones that, there are people that cannot stand it. Other people say that they feel as if the time, like they spend 3 hours, they think that they have been 3 days. Other people get lost, other people something else. But what's true is that everyone that gets involved in this case for long enough, their life changed. My life changed. Well, that's true maybe because it's obsession. When someone spends so much time in one topic, weird things start happening to him, like getting divorced, losing his job, losing friends, being avoided by everyone because that's all he talked about. And but also they're bears. I want to talk about my encounter last year with a bear there. This is one of the theories too. They're bears that cannot fall asleep, but because they don't have what to eat, so they're still hungry, and they roam in winter, and they're very dangerous. So some people say that they were attacked by animals, but there were no animal bites, scratches, anything on them. That's the weird thing. Nothing on them, but there are a lot of bears. And Dave, have you had this, something that happened years in your ago in your life, and then you realize, you remember it very sharply, and then you realize that that happened for a reason? Well, this happened to me last year. Um, right after I visited the Bird Rock, I told you about that before we started the interview, so I'll repeat it for our audience. I visited the Bird Rock, which is on top of the Dead Mountain, which is 1079, because they were saying that you should go there to ask for permission before you go to Otorten. So although I didn't had in my plans to go to Otorten, which I want to do this year, I just wanted to find the bird rock, because it's not easy to find. I mean, the top of these hills, mountains is vast. So unless you know what are you looking for, they're curved. So you have to go in some direction to find what you're looking for. And the bird rock is hidden behind the horizon. And I found it. I was alone, and I had this feeling that I should not take any souvenirs or anything, because I will be given a gift. Seriously, I just wanted to take something from the bird rock, and I didn't. So I got up, because laying on the grass, looking at the clouds shaping, changing, shifting, and I got up and I found these horns that you complimented me on. And I had a whole adventure bringing them back from the Dead Mountain. I call this my Ural dream catcher. I installed it, and I carried it with me the whole way back. Anyway, so on top of the bird rock, and that same, like, the next day after I found the horns and I brought them to the tent, I went over the Dyatlov Pass. I want to explain. Dyatlov Pass is just the pass where you go from south to north. Nothing interesting. It's just the pass, the most convenient place to go over the ridge. That's the pass. So everything, all the diaries, everything that's south of the Dyatlov Pass is life. Everything that's north of the Dyatlov Pass is death. They died there. Everything, the bodies, the tent, everything is gruesome. They're happy, pictures, diaries, joking about Yeti. Actually, this is how Yeti, this is the source of the Yeti theory, because they wrote into a satirical flyer. This was very common during wartime and treks. There was no phone, social media. So while you were sitting in the tent, you feel excited, you want to joke, and they were writing these satirical pamphlets where they contain, for example, it starts with the following appeal. We congratulate the 21st Congress of the party with increased birth rate among hikers. I mean, the two girls, the autopsy says that they were virgins, so they were not trying for increasing the birth rate. That's a sarcasm. Then one of the entries is uh, Kolevatov's apparatus proved to be good while traveling on train, by horse, on a truck, and in a bus, but doesn't work on snow. He was trying to make a drag sled, and it wasn't successful. So this apparatus that appears in the pamphlet gave birth to the theories that they were carrying nuclear source of, like, fuel, and they were trying to feed the stove with some nuclear fuel because they had a stove inside the tent, and that killed them, either because exploded, suffocated them, radiated, make them crazy. Americans have the theory about the infrasound, that which sound something in the sky that made them feel so uncomfortable that they slashed open the tent and went roaming around. But that's not what. See, you can apply any theory you want on these poor souls. I don't believe anyone, any group of people, or even one person have been killed in so many imaginative ways as the Dyatlov group. Mushrooms, smoking, suffocating, love quarrel. There is a love triangle in the group. There is a late arrival of one person who is much older than them. He could be their father. I mean, the age difference is very big, but still he was 38 and he died on his birthday. And they even exhumed him because there were too many theories that he was not, he didn't die, he was a saboteur, he killed them all. So he was buried, and actually in the registry of the cemetery, his name was not in the registry, so that gave reason to the family to apply for exhumation, and they exhumed him. And he had exactly the same traumas as in the autopsy report. So there was nothing, I mean, nothing until this moment proves any theory. And they had radioactive clothes, some of them, I mean, like 3 pieces of clothing, not all of them. They didn't radiate it, like, but some of them were working into places that handle radioactive sources. But back then, the discipline or maybe even the training wasn't so strict, or they didn't even know. And then again, one of the girls lived into a village that was under the trail of the Kishtim disaster in 58, 57, in 57, sorry. 26th of September 57, there was a big Chernobyl-like catastrophe that they exploded. I mean, we call it that the Soviets nuked themselves, because it was during the Cold War, where the Americans and the Russians were competing who first is going to make the bomb. And the recent movie, Oscar winning, about the nuclear bomb over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So they were looking at each other, and the Russians rushed, just putting together two chemicals, and they nuked their facility. And one of the hikers worked exactly cleaning the mess, and another girl lived under the trail of the nuclear contamination, so they could have brought some clothes anyway. So I went to the bird rock. I found the horns, and I brought them to the tent, which was south of the Dyatlov Pass. And then on next day, I went north, and I went ahead of the group because I was so sure that the weather is good. I was feeling assertive, knowledgeable. Well, it's an easy terrain. I have been there before, and I went over the pass, and I got lost like that. And I was scared. That's a no. It looks so easy. It's like there's no way in the world you can get lost. It's just grass and hills. So I'm explaining how easy you can die there. I will tell you two accidents that starts from nothing, and that's what happened to the Dyatlov group, but we cannot figure it out. So my incident was that I got lost, and I had the whistle for the bears. And I told you maybe some minutes ago that have you had this moment of realization that something in your past happened just so you relive this at this very moment? Back in the States, I hiked John Muir National Park, and they train you. I mean, they tell you to keep everything in bear-proof containers, and they tell you that you're going to see bears, and just don't do this, and this, and everything is gonna be okay. Just tell us which bear, where did you see it. So this is how I knew what the bear doo-doo excrements look like, because on the trail we saw a big pile of steaming green doo-doos, and my friend Ron said, well, she's looking at us right now. And she was looking at us right now, because bears are not afraid. They're not hunted, and they like to shit on trails because it's even place. And well, in the States there is not much grass, but in the Urals there is a very high grass in the forest, so it doesn't tickle their asses, I guess. So they like open space. That's my theory. Why then, or mark their territory. So here I'm lost with a whistle, and I'm whistling because I'm lost for 3 hours. And there was information. Okay, the summer expeditions where you can actually see the ground and what's in the ground happen July, August. This is when the swamps dry out and before the rain starts. So in exactly at that time, the blueberries ripe. And the little bears, the mama bears with the cubs, they start eating the blueberries right then when we attack Dyatlov Pass, all the hikers. And the Russians, they're very rich Russians with all-terrain vehicles and hunters and dogs, and we're very loud. No one tells us to use bear-proof containers or anything. There is no, I mean, there is law not to go with these machines because they're ruining the terrain, but no one listens.
Right.
No one has a control over it. So we knew that the bear, and so the bears with the cubs are chased down in the forest, and they're not happy. First, because they're scared, and second, because they don't have access to the blueberries. So we knew that there is a bear with two cubs, chased by dogs the previous day, and I'm lost, and I'm whistling on my every step, and I'm tired because I'm moving the whole camp south to north. And then There they are, the doodles. No, first I saw small doodles steaming, and I decided that they're not big enough for a bear. I just registered them, and I continue, and then 5 steps further, I see the big mama doodles, and I'm looking at them. I don't even, like straighten up, and and then Ron in my head, I hear Ron saying, "She's looking at you." And true enough, I just lifted my eyes, and I saw the bear like 50 meters from me. No, not 50, 20 meters from me, because I'm nearsighted. I wouldn't see it if it was 50 meters, and it's a dense forest, so you can't see in 50 meters. She was right there, and she was looking at me. And this is when I lost my shit. It's like, you're not prepared for an encounter with bear, with cubs. No matter what you read, I'm called Teddy Bear. I have a site, Teddyland. I'm all about bears. I travel with stuffed bears. They have been to the Dyatlov Pass summer and winter. But a real bear, what kind of bear? If you play dead, if you run, if you make yourself big, if you climb the tree. I mean, all that you have read is just a blank slate. Nothing, nothing. I listened to an expert who said, I have told my friends what to do. So they have like one of his friends, and he was not losing it easily. I mean, he wasn't afraid of things. And he had a bear spray, he had some knife, and he was trekking with walking sticks, poles.
Right.
And when a bear attacked him. Now, I learned that there are two types of bear attacks. One, if the bear wants to attack you, you cannot outrun or do anything about it. She's going to attack you. And there are fake attacks when the bear just runs towards you just to see how you're going to react. If you're food, if you're afraid, who are you? What are you? So most of the videos that you see how a bear runs and then continues pass by the video photographer, that's when it's a fake attack. If she wants to attack you, she's going to do it. So that person who had the bear spray, the knife, and the stick actually defended himself with the stick. And this is what happened to another person on the Dyatlov Pass, a Russian writer. He was on the ridge, and out of nowhere, there's no forest, no tree line, nothing. A bear attacked him, and this is how he defended himself with the stick. But then he had some PTSD. He never the next year he went and never wanted to be a moment alone on the ridge. And after the second year, he stopped going there altogether. Like, no more Dyatlov Pass for him. So my encounter with the bear, I see the bear, and I'm absolutely not thinking what to do. Same state I was in avalanche when we actually started an avalanche, and I was swept by the snow. You
Oh,
can't think swim in the avalanche, nothing. It's just out of your control. This is a big disaster that you have no ways to help your survival. So the bear. What I did without even thinking is I am buckled, and this is not good to do. Now I'm going to tell you what's wrong and what's good of what I did. I just dropped my backpack instinctively, as if I'm going to run and it's very heavy, that's going to help me. And the next thing what I did is I started walking slowly to the side, not towards the bear, not back, no, aside. Like the bear was seeing my profile, and I was mumbling to myself, like I was praying. Very wrong. Don't drop your backpack, because this is additional layer of protection. What you should do, fake or no fake attack, if you see the bear attacking you, just drop on the ground like a sea star with the backpack on your back, and the bear is going to try to turn you over with to expose your belly. You are supposed to be like that.
And thank you for the bear protection. We're done 1 hour with Teddy Hadjiyska of the DyatlovPass.com. We're going to get more into the Dyatlov Pass story and update on what's going on in the latest investigations when we return on Spaced Out Radio. This is Spaced Out Radio. with host Dave Scott. All right, Teddy, I'm going to put you on mute or in the back of the green room. We're going to take about 5 minutes here. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, me too.
Isn't she awesome? I love her. I do. She's amazing. Okay, I am back. Good to have you all here tonight. I am Pam, by the way. I am Pam. I don't know why I find that so funny, but I do. I am Pam. I'm a happy camper tonight, people. Happy camper. Dogface Simon, how you doing? Teddy, you're amazing, by the way.
Thank you, Dave. Well, it takes two to talk, to converse, you know. You're a very good host.
Well, thank you. And thank you to Patrick and Joe for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate it. We're going to get going here in 5 seconds. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, the host of the most tinfoil, for sure. We're talking Dyatlov Pass tonight. Teodora Hadjiyska is our guest. And want to remind all of you that you can always listen to us on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, and thank you for doing so. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight. Wintershins. Wintershins is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. From DyatlovPass.com, one of the greatest mysteries of the 21st century, the 20th century, and we are talking about it tonight. The Dyatlov Pass. What happened to 9 outback skiers who died weirdly and strangely in the Ural Mountains of Russia back in the 1950s? Teddy is here to break it all down for us. Teddy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dave. Let's define weird. Why is it so weird? So many people have died in the mountains. They have frozen, they have bitten their heads off. Some of them have been delusional, paradoxical undressing, many things. What's weird about the Dyatlov Pass is that they died as if reacting to some event that we cannot figure out what that event was, because 4 of them were found in a creek, very shallow creek, so they didn't drown. All of them have autopsy reports, so there's no secret there. There are no missing people, nothing. And these 4, 3 of them were with severe, absolutely unsurvivable traumas and wounds. 1 caved-in skull, 2 flailed chest with multiple broken ribs. So they suffocated, they drowned in their blood 20 minutes after the impact. But one of them, because I said 3 died in horrible way, one of them had nothing on him, and he was embracing them. So there were 3 men embraced and 1 girl kneeling as if praying. And you will read, because now I'm going to give you the details that are surfacing on top of this case, describing it why it's weird, although that's not the weirdest part of it. So the kneeling girl was missing her eyes and tongue. Okay, well, if you're in a running water for a month, and actually these people in the creek, the bodies were found 2 months after they died, actually 3 months after they died. So this is the soft tissue. There are creatures in the water. I mean, that's not the weirdest part, but this is what you're gonna hear: missing tongue, as if someone ripped it off to punish her. The missing eyeballs. Well, those are decaying bodies. But to me, the strange thing is that the rest of the bodies were found scattered around. Actually, not scattered. They were going uphill towards the Dead Mountain, the 1079 peak, in a line. the bodies were found in a line. Well, in a line because that's the easiest way to climb up. Usually the mountain has one way to climb up the ridge, and this is where the trail is. So they were climbing up, underdressed, I mean, very scarce. None of them had shoes, but they had socks on them. One of them had a sole of a shoe under his sweat, I mean, underwear. Why? Usually you do that when you trying to dry up your shoe sole that goes inside the boot. All the boots were found inside the tent. And the bodies found in a line 500, 600 meters from each other were going towards the tent. So imagine, before your brain is fed up with some theory, because this is how you learn about Dyatlov Pass. Usually to see a movie or to read the book, you need the theory. So all these articles, they're revolving around the theory, and they're using only the pieces and the facts that match that theory. But I spent, and maybe this is what makes me an expert, I spent more than 10 years, 11 years without a favorite theory. I just checked that none of the existing more than 100 theories doesn't match all of the facts, all the information, all of the evidence, everything we know about this case. So it feels like you have more than one box of puzzle pieces mixed together, and when you build a theory, only you just use some of the pieces but not all of them, and you disregard the rest because they're not interesting for your theory. But the fact is that you have a tent in a very windy place where the tent wouldn't survive. The tent is very old. It's actually two tents, very old tarpaulin tents stitched together to fit 10 people. And they're writing in their diaries that every evening they have to patch it, because on top of the cloth being very old and worn down and used in extreme temp conditions, they had a suspended stove inside the tent. This is not something you cook on, but this is just to warm up. And it's suspended on a rope, and it's fed up with wood, and it burns everything underneath. So you will see, because the first visuals when you type Dyatlov Pass, you will see, and we have 5 films of photos on top of everything. But back then, who made the photo is not clear, because they were exchanging cameras. It's not like your personal phone. They were just changing cameras, and whoever closest to the camera was making the shots. So you will see someone, I'm Slobodin, doesn't matter who, with burned jacket, like ragged, like as if he was being torn by beasts and being in a accident or something, but he's smiling. He's just sitting like that and posing for the photograph. This is what happens if you're inside the tent close to the stove. You burn your clothes, or you get burned yourself. So they were cursing whoever had to sleep closer to that stove. But that stove was found in its case inside the tent, so it was not used. Well, this is what things look like. And also, they were spending that night on the ridge where there is no wood, so there was nothing to burn. Even if they had wood, they would have used it for cooking their meals, but there was no, it wasn't a convenient place to make an outside fire because they were cooking outside. When I went with Discovery Channel, I saw how they do, because this is my only winter expedition, how the Russians are cooking in the taiga. You actually make a hole in the snow, you put the wood in the hole, and then you suspend the kettle or whatever pot you use to cook in on top. So basically nothing is above the snow because there is constantly a lot of wind and weather on top. So everything is in a hole. And where they found the tent in 59, there was no place to dig a hole, leave alone cook or anything. So if they spend their last night alive on this hill, what we call now Dead Mountain. That's another name for the place. It's okay. So Hulatsa Hill, or the name of my book, 1979. I mean 1079. That's actually the mark on the map of the Dead Mountain, and it's called the Dead Mountain because nothing lives there, and there's no game, there's nothing living on the top, I mean on this hill, because it's very windy. And they found the tent very cool, I mean on the ridge of that mountain, that nothing lives. Why would they do that if they have a mile down on both sides of the Dyatlov Pass? They have forest. Inside the forest, even when it's blowing, we saw that with Discovery Channel. I mean, that's my only winter expedition, because you really need equipment and soul for Everest. Like the temperatures are going minus 50 Celsius, and it's very strong weather all the time. And your feeling is like if you were on the edge of the earth, like there's nothing beyond that. Because I'm a mountaineer, I have been to other mountains, but you always know your way back, where the hut is, where your food is, where your transportation, your home, I mean at least you know the direction. But when you're at the Dyatlov Pass, you're like on the end of the earth, and there's no way back. It's like that's it. I mean, and also there is no point of going back. This is the feeling.
Right. I have a couple questions for you regarding this case. Is there a theory on why these 9 people seem to get so confused that night where tragedy happened?
Define confused.
Well, because, you had people cutting open the tent. You had other people miles away, or a mile or a kilometer away. You had them all spread out like they were running from something, whether it
Yeah,
was an
okay.
avalanche or something else.
Understood. So the question is, what was your question?
Well, the question was, why do you think that they seem so confused
Yeah,
that night?
all of the theories touch this ground. I mean, all of the theories start with their confusion and why they're running naked away from the tent, then back to the tent. Because maybe from all the ranting people, the listeners that are not familiar with the case didn't understand. So if the tent was here, the bodies were found on a line down, and here is the creek where the severely injured were found. So what made these people abandon, cut open their tent that survived a month after that sticking up? I mean, they could have, whatever disaster made them cut open from the inside the tent and go down. Now, my first years of when I was describing the incident, I was saying running down. Well, they were not running, because one of the strange, maybe the strangest trace that we have left documented by the case files are the footprints going down from the tent, and they're not running. Not only they're not running, but they're not even going in the footsteps of the person in front of them, how you do in snow and mountain. They were actually in a line, like on a parade, in a earshot distance, as if they were talking. And they were like 4, 3, and they were slowly going down exactly on a path of if there was an avalanche, because this is one of the most famous theories, is that they could open. Well, what can make you cut open your tent from the inside? I mean, what events can occur to make you could not like going out of the tent and see strange globes in the sky. You're already out of the tent, you can see the globes inside the tent. So it was something that they heard, what else, or something happened to make them cut open. And then that same moment, they are not running from the tent. So they didn't pick up their shoes, they didn't pick up their clothes, they didn't do anything to survive the minus 50 degrees temperature Celsius. I mean, it wasn't colder than usual. On the
Right.
contrary, actually, the weather was mild for the winter, dead of winter, right? But no one goes without shoes or anything, like no gloves, no jackets, no headwear, nothing. They were going down for a mile, which means in a straight line, 3, 4 at a time. I mean, in a line, like abreast, in a earshot distance. So the traces that we have preserved in the case files, because there were shots of these traces, show people that calmly go down away from the tent. Okay, so this is just starting with the weirdness of this case. So your question was again?
Just about the high strangeness of it all.
No, you had a particular question. It's what?
Well, I think you answered it. I would like to ask you a different question though regarding this event. Do we know if they all passed away on the same night, or was this happening over a couple of nights that this happened? What's the theory there?
If they died in the same night?
Yes.
Judging by the contents of the stomach, we have a full autopsy reports on this. Now, we have to read them considering how they were performed and written at the time, meaning that the notes were not taken at the time of the autopsy, but after that. Secondly, some autopsies were 3, 4 in one day, and the coroner was not in his own, so to speak, hospital, mortuary, whatever, I mean, where he performed the autopsy. So you have to consider these things, because there's some sentences that are almost like repeated from one autopsy report to another. And also the dead spots don't match the position of the bodies that they were found. So was that someone moved the bodies, or Rождённый was just copying phrases from one body to another? Because maybe only Dyatlov, the leader of the group, had a matching dead spots on the body with the position in which he was found. So I'm lost again. I was talking about, what was I talking about? What question am I answering?
It's about whether they passed away on the same night.
Oh, same day, yeah. So the contents of their stomachs are matching. Like they all ate approximately same time, number of hours before they were found. The food was similar in their stomach contents. I mean, the autopsy reports match as if they did die not more than hours from each other. Then again, I mean, the diaries stop at the same time. And that's not conclusive though, because all the scenarios, well, the pathologist was not committed to any scenario. He wrote what he found out. Obviously, in the back of his head, they died hours from each other, but they were not found at the same time. So the first 5 were only a month were found only a month after their deaths, but the rest 3 months after that. So they couldn't be, I mean, the autopsy reports were 2 months apart from each other, because in some autopsy reports you feel like some phrases are copied from the previous, because he performed like 3, 4 autopsies per day, and then he wrote the reports, and all this not in his own place of work. So he was tired, obviously, and he was working in conditions that are colder than he's used to. Strangely enough, the Google translator makes his name sound like reborn, because his name is Возрожденный, so he translates like reborn. See, before I translated all the case files, because this is my I mean, my best contribution to solving this case is not my theory, because after 12 years, I do have a book that ends up with the theory. But my main contribution is that I translated all of the case files, and not just the case files, a lot of documents. So people can actually play with them and make their own puzzle pictures. And this is what I'm famous for. That's why Josh Gates took me to the past, because he knew I know the case best of everybody that can speak some English. Well, the Russians are dealing with the case way longer than I, but they don't speak, they can't explain it. And also, the strange thing, no matter your nationality or language you speak, you have two ways of attaching your psyche to this case. You either commit to a theory, on the third day you start reading about it, and it matters if you heard about from a movie, a book, or how did you find out about the case. You like make up your mind, and then you make that puzzle to fit the pieces, to fit whatever you think, what theory you like the best. This is what you think, like, oh, if I were in these conditions, what would I would do? Okay, so they were killed. Okay, they saw a UFO. Okay, so they were confused. So you make up your mind, and you're trying afterwards to fit every new piece of information that you find out to fit your theory, or you disregard it. So this is the mentality of majority of the researchers of the case. Like, I have read people that have dealing with the case for 3 months, they consider it enough, and they write a book with a theory. I mean, come on. I'm dealing with this case for 12, 13 years now, and to this day, I find new pieces of information. And what's amazing about the theory that I finally committed to after 12 years of studying the case, translating the documents, which means every new piece of information, I put it in a particular, I translate it and I put it in a particular place, because that you can search and find it, because they're very strange things written by hand. And people argue if this is what they said or why they said that, and not just the hikers, the searchers as well. Because imagine, it's not, who do you trust about the condition in which the bodies were found? They sent an investigator who had never been in such harsh weather, or investigated dead by winter elements, and also weirdness. He himself didn't had good clothes or shoes. He was always very cold. He was not used to the mountain. He was not a mountaineer. He started very energetically. Lev Ivanov is the investigator in 59. And then after they found the first bodies, in between, because there is a gap in the investigation, because they gave up, they couldn't find the last 4 bodies, which had the weirdest trauma of all. And they were found together in a pile in the creek, in the water. He kind of gave up. And when they found the bodies that were actually have the weirdest trauma for the case, he didn't make a protocol. He didn't observe. He didn't analyze. He was just somewhere around. And the students that found the bodies made all the pictures that survive to this day. Some of them were included in the case file. There's so much, it's so strange.
And on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we have Teodora Hadjiyska for another half hour here on Spaced Out Radio. We are going to get more into the Dyatlov Pass incident. Her website, dyatlovpass.com. We will be right back in just a few seconds. This is Spaced Out Radio. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. Excuse me. So much fun with you. So much fun.
I have the feeling I didn't answer your original question about I started talking about the theories. Why do we think they died the same day night? Was
Yeah.
it the original
Yes.
question?
Yes.
Okay. Well, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows because are we on air right now?
Well, are you save that answer for when we come back?
Yeah, the problem, but for some aspects of the incident actually helps, is that the bodies froze in the timeline. Uh, at the time in 59, they were not accounting for what happens to a body when it's defrosted and
Mm-hmm.
frozen again. If it's what happened if they were found before the official investigation and frozen again, because a lot of the symptoms, and I have been befriending a lot of coroners nowadays, strange company. um, they say that some of the strange things in the autopsy reports could be caused by refreezing. If the body's like leaking, oozing, some of the foam um, could be contributed to the fact that they were towed, and because this is what happens when you're towed, but then when you're thrown back outside, you freeze again, and all these symptoms could be contributed to some of the theories said that how KGB tortured people by sitting on their chests when they were suffocating and foam started coming out of their noses. Well, we have this on one of the bodies, but it could be caused by defrosting the body and freezing it again. A lot of it will be very useful if modern forensic professionals look at all of the signs unbiased, because they can read the autopsy reports and it's a description of how the bodies were found, but it goes straight away to a conclusion. And the the coroners, the pathologists, usually, as everyone else, they jump straight to a theory, and they kind of bind their explanation of the signs by the theory that they believe this is what happened. And it's very unique if you find someone that doesn't have a theory but it's still interested in the case, because
Right.
what yeah you to get involved with this case, you usually start liking a theory. You just embrace a theory, and this is your point of view. And actually it takes a lot of courage to abandon a theory and just say that, well, that doesn't explain everything. That's all you have to say. That doesn't explain everything, because so far, besides my theory, I have not encountered another one that accounts for all the weirdness. But my theory is also so strange, not in the evil way. It doesn't have a lot of murder and extraterrestrial and strangeness. It's just
Right.
piled up one scenario on top of another scenario by people that didn't mean, they changed their minds and they were afraid for their skins and their, but most importantly, they're not criminals. Because when you are not a criminal and you do that for the first time and you have no idea what are you doing, like disposing a body, you create a mess of evidence and facts, and that can be very difficult to decipher. It's like finding a body somewhere in the field, thrown there just because the teenager died by overdose and the people didn't want their parents to blame them for making throwing a party, something like that.
Right.
So You start thinking, okay, how did this body come to die in this field? Was it UFO that he
Hold
dropped
that thought,
from?
because we're going to come back in about 20 seconds. Big thank you tonight to Noble Patrick and Cosmic Joe for the super chats. Our website has Spaced Out Radio Store. Go get some swag. It's not ugly, people. We're going to get going here in 7 seconds. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll coming right back. Here we go with the next half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Final time tonight, we say hello to Teodora Hadjiyska from Dyatlov We were asking Teddy right before the break about if these 9 people passed away on the same night. It's going to be impossible to figure out, but the question still remains. Did they?
Yes, it does. It does. It's a very valid question. The how do you make a conclusion if they have died on the same at the same time? Usually by the stomach content and the degree of the body. What do you call it? Decomposition. They were found, the 2 groups, I mean, first 5 bodies and then 4, with a gap of 2 months from the first and the last group. So the first group stomach content was described in the autopsy reports. So these 5 died, and everything else. I'm not a specialist. That's why I ask specialists to read the autopsy reports for me. And everything points to the fact that the first 5 died at the same time. Then we have a 2 months gap, and then the last 4 were found. And it's kind of the pathologist dragged his feet and matched the time of death of the first 5. We don't know. There is very little in this case that one can say it's 100% sure. To 2018, I mean, in 2018, the body of the elderly hiker who joined the last moment, they saw him for the first time on the train station before leaving. He joined the group at the last moment. And he was exhumed in 2018, and up to the, I was saying something. So, that everything is under question and doubt in this case, like nothing concrete. So that was the first time when at least we had confirmed the body. That's why they want more exhumations to be done, but mostly to match the trauma and to see if something was not described in 59. But this is how this case is treated in modern times. First, the doubt was that there is a body there at all. Like they were expecting an empty grave because the name was not in the registry of the cemetery. Then they found the body, then everything in the autopsy report was correct. There were some omissions that I spoke to a modern coroner, that he explained to me that if the body is not cut from the back, you don't see the cracks on the scapula. That's very normal. If when they open a body from the front and they see the cause of death and everything, like, yeah, he died because he was crushed. I mean, his chest, lungs, heart, everything is mess. They don't open you for the back to see what else is going on there. And because this cracks on the scapula, which are not fatal, nothing. Like you walk away with this, but they were not described in the autopsy report, and they didn't find anything else weird about the body. Now they're fueling this little piece of weirdness. Why was not explained in the autopsy report? Even nowadays, they explain to me. You will see on the side pictures of me attending autopsies, even going with the spoon for the guts and the blood and things. I mean, it turned out that I'm not. I can attend autopsy. I'm not afraid, or I don't. I can handle it. And they explained to me that nowadays they put the body in a scanner so they see what they're looking for, what's broken. But back then, if they open it on the front and they see what caused the death, they don't have reason to turn you around. And especially if there are 4 bodies opened in one day, and they all have like similar injuries and degree of, I mean, how old the bodies were. Anyways, so
Right.
So basically everything, all the check boxes that you have for conclusion that they died at the same time, degree of decomposition, stomach content, everything matches that they died at the same time, but everything that they knew to look for in 59. And if you start doubting that even the autopsy report, I mean the autopsies took place, or those are the real documents, because doesn't matter what you do about this case, that doesn't clear any doubts or answer any questions. So I remember what I wanted to say about the exhumation of Zolotaryov. So instead of clearing out that, yeah, that person with this trauma died and it's buried in this grave, that started new, like, absolutely immediately new theories were broadcasted that because they took a DNA and they matched it to some relatives, and so the first broadcast of the DNA results was that it's not him, and that overrode absolutely everything. Like, okay, KGB, CIA, everything, and they just phrased it wrong. Instead of saying this test was inconclusive, they said it's not him. So this is a choice of 3 words, not him, even 2 words, not him. That started a wild range of theories. What happened there, who that person was, because he joined the group at the last moment. And no one knows who he is. No, there are other strange things about him. Like, he was a teacher, but he had a lot of tattoos on his arms, and he was not supposed to show tattoos in the socialism. So and the tattoos, well, he was decomposed. So they said in the autopsy reports that it looks like a beet, like the veggie. No, it was a heart, or it was something from, but he was decomposed and things. So even if you have a hard evidence, like you have the autopsy report from 59, and then you have exhumation, and the new thing matches the original case files, even then they say, so the second DNA result was that it's him, but they cannot rule out his brother. Okay. So Komsomolskaya Pravda, they found this periodical that has journalists that are dedicated to this case. They're always on the trail, and she found Natalia Versegova. She found his brother. He was a spy. He was accused to be a German spy. But back then, during the German occupation, you were given a job. You had to survive somehow. So he was working something, and immediately it turned out he was working for the Germans. So he was executed. At least this is what the documents show. So she found out that the document that he's executed, and immediately, this is example how this case goes on to these days. Immediately they said, no, that's actually, they swapped the bodies. So his brother didn't die, and that's him on the pass. And immediately there's something very weird, because the biggest book in Russian, and Russians should know their case, right? It's in their domain. It's about KGB and CIA meeting on the top of the ridge of the dead mountain, swapping bioisotopes contaminated clothing. As example, how far does the science of atomic something experiments is advanced in the Soviet Union, to prove that they're way more advanced than they're showing for, and that's double spike and stuff. I mean, how can strangers roam around if this is Siberia and you have to pass through villages that are populated, and there are gonna be accounts of strangers in the area? But then again, everything can be falsified, and people are not asked. And that also in time, that takes time, 3 months or something. So people forget, because even in the base of my theory, let me say what my theory says. Actually, it's a lot of facts that other researchers also believe in, that the tent was not on the ridge, that it was in the forest where it's supposed to be, because this tent has to hang between trees to stay straight. I mean, it cannot withstand the wind or the storm. It was found not even propped on proper sticks. It was just propped on walking sticks, on ski poles, and has to withstand storms and everything. And what are you doing there if on both directions of the pass you have a forest, you have shelter, you have wood, you have water, you have everything? Why not walk for another hour down on each direction and just make another overnight camp inside the forest? So where was I was saying that even if you, I was talking about, what was I talking about? Come on, your job is to remind me. You're following, right? You're listening.
I
What are
am
you doing?
listening and following.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Everything is under question in this case. So okay. So I was talking about the book. The Russians, they know their thing, right? So
right.
they said that the CIA and the KGB met on top of the ridge, and some of the group were double spies. The rest were didn't know what's going on. So at the end, something went wrong, and they were marched. And this is what I believe for 10 years, because not for 10 years. Actually, Discovery Channel said, "Well, give us a theory. I mean, come on." But I I bowed down in front of George Gates, because at the end he just marked what is not. And this is exactly how one should read this case and approach this case. You see things that don't match any of the theories, not like what they do. They start, I mean, researchers, movies and books. Okay, movies and books I can understand, but researchers start with the theory and they're forcing it. Everything, like they cut the body to fit the bed. This is not how you investigate. And I was mentioning the pathologists, and they also, when you ask someone to read the autopsy reports and give their forensic expertise, they start with trying to figure out what happened there, and that should not be the case, because they're given only a few documents to analyze what they can say, and this is exactly how they should approach the task. If they want to investigate on their own, they're welcome. So I have a very valuable expertise, actually, which goes right into the heart of the case and attacks and undermines one of the facts that have been repeated for 65 years now, and this is that the footsteps are made by barefoot people, that there are no shoes in these footsteps. Because what you can see from the photos, which are not done professionally, because the investigator did zero photo for the case files. This is all done by students who are trying to document what they see, almost like a tourist. So what you can see from the footsteps, those are feet in shoes, period. You can see the heel of the shoe, you can see the bottom of the shoe. But back then, because the bodies were found shoeless, barefoot, this is what had been repeated over and over again. And we're going back to the legends that these tracks are from bare feet, and they're not. and especially said so, and he doesn't care who left them there or what happened or how that fits in any theory. And this is how this case should be approached. And actually, I can tell I was the happiest person when I first started and I was checking out theories like, no, that's not it, it's not a bear, doesn't have marks, well, infrasound, well, okay, they were feeling uncomfortable, and then how did they die? Because all of the theories, all of the theories, you will find a reason why would they leave their tent by cutting it from inside and running down, but they're not running, they're walking abreast like on a parade, they were talking something very calmly on the way of the avalanche. So all of the theories explain just that. What will make them? So the theories are they're suffocating. Even, I mean, I'm going to tell you ridiculous theories that have been broadcasted on the Russian TV. Like there was a skunk. There is a type of animal, not a skunk, but for in the snow, living in the snow, which makes very stink when it's scared and surprised. So one of these skunks made it into the tent because it was attracted by the food smell and blah blah blah, and it farted, and they cut out the tent because they couldn't stand the stench, and went out to until the stench come. You're in the middle of the night and outside is minus 50 degrees, and then one step ahead is like, well, why not? Some of them farted so bad they destroyed their tent. So sometimes it's borderline, are you serious about this? Because I'm going, this is going to be I already have the visa and everything, but I'm fundraising money, please give me money to go back with shoes, otherwise I have to go dressed like Dyatlov Pass, Dyatlov group. So in order to investigate properly, you should look at everything separately, just not buying by any theory, and just to see and look around to see what you're gonna find, and just keep an open mind. I was supposed to say something, and
we only got about 6 minutes here before we have to say goodnight to you. And I got a couple questions from our audience that are real important to them. Number one, the person who seemed to rip out their tongue. What happened to
Come on. Luda Dubinina. They said I'm the incarnation of Luda Dubinina. Okay, so she had the foul mouth and someone ripped her tongue. This is nonsense. She was found face down in the creek with open mouth. What happens first to the tongue? Also, the autopsy report says missing tongue. Doesn't say cut, ripped, missing. Did I answer the question?
So you think a fish may have got it?
Well, her eyes were missing, but not just her eyes, two other corpses too, and the tongue. Well, no, I'm not asserting anything. I'm not gonna give you. I had a mentor. Igor Pavlov taught me the following. He's the first author in my book, and he's dead. He died even before the book came out. He never said what his interpretation of the facts is. He's just saying what the case files or the testimonies say and who said it first. So the autopsy report says that the tongue of a corpse that was found laying down in the water for 2 months was missing. Okay, quote, source. That's it. You draw conclusions.
Okay, next question is, was that a Bigfoot or a human that was photographed?
I say it was Thibault, because if you see the frames before that one, he was rolling in the snow, joking. That was typical for him, making himself, like a clown. He got almost no, that was Krivonishenko. Anyways, so he was rolling in the snow, and his camera was propped on a, what do you call that? And then he went to pee, because you can see on that famous photo of Yeti, you can see tracks going towards Yeti. but all the photo is blurred. It's not on focus. So if someone just got his camera, okay, so Thibaut is rolling down and then he wants to pee, he goes into the forest, and someone took his camera and it's out of focus because it was done for a close-up. In the 3 photos prior to the Yeti photo, it was the photos were done in close-up. So if someone took the camera and took a picture of Thibaut and you see the tracks going into the woods, to me, this is Thibaut. Other people say that's Yeti, but there is a track between the photographer and the Yeti figure. You can see the photo. Just my request is look at the frames before that, because you have to see them in a sequence. And then why no one is mentioning anything about they were saying everything in their diaries. There was a group diary, individual diaries, there is a satirical pamphlet, no mention of sightings of Yeti. And if this photo is true, the Yeti was not more than 15 meters away. If they saw it so clearly and so close, that would be like, I mean, there would be mention in the diary.
Right. 3 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you, Teddy. Your final conclusion on how they passed away.
I remember what I wanted to say before that. Every theory is explaining why they left the tent, but they don't follow them what happened in the forest, because the bodies were found in the forest, and also they made the fire, they made the snow bivouac, they made everything to survive at least the night and die some other way. I mean, ahead of time, and at least get dressed. So I was always, you have to, it's very difficult to assume that the tent was not there, because chronologically the investigation starts with the finding of the tent. So everyone presumes that they spent the night there, and this is where the tragedy started. But if you let this go with a certainty that we're not certain about it, and look where the bodies were found and where the tent was supposed to be. This is the key. Where was the tent supposed to be? It was supposed to be where the bodies were, where the fire was, where the water was. So the first time, and that was independently from my co-author, Igor Pavlov, I said, and I had the trauma of Luda Dubinina, the girl with the missing tongue and eyes. I have the same trauma. Just I happened to be rescued. And what can cause this trauma on 3 of them? Because it looks like one blow. And when I went there, you know what can cause this trauma? 3, a fallen tree. This is what caused the trauma. All the cuts is because they were trying to get out of the tent. They were trapped under the tent. And this is a trauma that no one is prepared for. You go nuts because you're trying to get the bodies from under the tree. You cannot. You waste time, energy. You're exhausted. So you start climbing. And we have documents and maps that there were a lot of aircrafts in the sky because of the geologists that were camping there and looking for uranium. We have the magnetic anomalies and everything. We have proof that there were a lot of aircrafts in the sky, and this is where they were going to signal for help, because this is what you do if there are 3 people dying down, trapped under the tree. Okay, so that explains everything, but why they were found the way they were found. Why is the tent up on the ridge? And this is the second part of my book.
And there are mysteries out there that we will never know, just like the end of this. Teddy Hadjiyska, I love you. Thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio again. And when you get more information, you award winner, you let us know and we'll bring you back on. Much
always
love.
For you, Dave. You're always welcome. Thank you.
Dyatlov.com is Teddy's website. Coming up next, we have Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. Right after that, Olaf Phillips is going to join us to talk about Terry R. Rist.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Thank you, Teddy.
Thank you, Dave.
Very much appreciate you tuning us in and allowing us to hear your
No, with
research.
you, time flies by. It's always like
I know.
I don't
It's
feel
nine,
it at all.
it's 9 o'clock now
I know.
for you.
Yeah. It
So
has
you're
been
10
only
hours
2
ahead of
hours
me.
this time.
You're 10 hours ahead of me.
Yeah, but I'm used for 3 hours interview.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Much love. You take care. And we'll see
Okay.
you soon, okay?
I'll
Enjoy
keep
your
you tuned. I see you're on my list, so you'll
beautiful.
see what the next. Well, I'm going on an expedition right now, and I'm looking for. See, the thing is, until now, I was finding things by chance, and now I'm going looking for particular things for the first time.
Beautiful. You go. Let us know. Take care, my friend.
Thank you, Dave. Love you.
Love
We'll
you
be
too.
back.
Good. Teddy Hadjiyska, everybody. We love her around here. All right. I'll be right back. Then Steve and then Olaf. We'll be right back. All right. I am back. We having fun? I'm going to be ending the show quite early tonight. I'm just pretty tired tonight. Been a heavy week for me, so I am going to end it early. And yeah, so we'll go the other next hour, and then as soon as we're done, I'll sign off. Thank you, Rob, Patrick, and Joe for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love. Here we go. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. Thank you for making us part of your night. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Sticking with the Space Travelers Club, the Desert Clam has the password for tonight, and it is, let's check it out here. Where do we got it? Widdershins. Widdershins is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam, so it's a password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. Here's Steve Stockton coming up with another weird story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. The Bennington Triangle is centered around the heavily wooded forest of Glastonbury Mountain and also includes the small towns of Bennington, Woodford, and Shaftesbury, and also the abandoned or ghost towns of Somerset and Glastonbury. Over the last 200 years, there have been many encounters with and sightings of a Bigfoot-like cryptid in the area surrounding Glastonbury Mountain. The locals, as well as paranormal and cryptozoological investigators, refer to this unknown creature as the Bennington Monster. The earliest recorded sightings of the beast occurred in the early 1800s, when a stagecoach loaded with passengers was forced to stop its journey due to a heavily washed-out section of the stage road. The driver of the stagecoach observed that there were very large footprints in the mud, which were way too large to belong to any human. While the perplexed driver was pondering these prints, the stagecoach was suddenly attacked by a large creature that was strong enough to flip the stagecoach over onto its side. The terrified passengers stated that they observed a frightening pair of large eyes peering into the overturned coach at them before whatever the creature was screamed and then ran off to disappear in the surrounding woods. The passengers would later describe the monster as a large, hairy, black creature well over 6 feet in height. The area has long been rife with tales of people suddenly going missing within the area of the triangle. One of the oddest disappearances was that of a man named Carol Herrick in 1943. Herrick disappeared while on a hunting trip just a few miles northeast of the abandoned town of Glastonbury. Although his body was found 3 days later, it was observed to be surrounded by dozens of footprints, too large for a normal person. It was also determined that Carol appeared to have been squeezed to death. Then, beginning in 1945 and continuing for the next 5 years, people began to go mysteriously missing from the area with an alarming regularity. A man named Mitty Rivers, a 74-year-old hunting guide very familiar with the area, went missing on November 12, 1945. Rivers, who had led many hunting parties in the area over decades, was taking a group of 4 hunters to the oddly named Hell Hollow area, which is located within the southwest forest of Glastonbury. While leading the hunting party back to camp, he somehow got ahead of the other 4 and, for reasons unknown, never returned to the campsite. At first, the other hunters were not overly concerned, as they knew Mitty to be an expert woodsman and knowledgeable guide. When Rivers still had failed to return the next day, the authorities were contacted and an extensive search was held, comprising as many as 300 worried locals, as well as a number of U.S. Army soldiers who had been dispatched from nearby Fort Devens in Massachusetts. They searched through the deep woods for 8 straight days, but the only possible evidence found was an ammo cartridge for the same type rifle that Rivers was known to be carrying. The cartridge was found in a shallow stream, and there was no evidence of any foul play or animal attack nearby. Although they had no luck with the extensive search effort, many of Mitty's friends and those local to the area were sure with the man's knowledge of the woods and survival skills, he would eventually return. However, this never came to be, and no trace of the missing guide has ever been found. The area from which Rivers vanished is near Long Trail Road and Vermont State Route 9. The very next year, on Sunday, December 1st, 1946, an 18-year-old college student named Paula Welden went missing while hiking in the same area around Long Trail Road. Easily remembered because she was wearing a bright red jacket, several people recalled seeing her that day, including a shop clerk in Bennington who had provided her with directions, and also a couple of elderly hikers who had been approximately 300 feet behind her on the trail for part of their hike. The alarm was sounded when the college sophomore didn't show up the next morning for her classes at Bennington College. An extensive search was launched by local authorities and included more than 1,000 volunteer searchers. There were also searches conducted from the air, and with the assistance of the FBI, and a $5,000 reward was offered. When interviewed, the elderly couple who had observed Paula hiking just ahead of them on the trail stated that after they watched her turn a corner on the trail, she seemed to have just vanished. Despite the extensive searches and the offer of the $5,000 reward, no trace of Paula Welden has ever been found, and her fate remains unknown.
Thank you, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing, for another great story. Actually changed his name on YouTube to Tales Untold. So strange. Hey, we got something strange happening next. Olaf Phillips is here for the UFO report. It's going to be weird. So weird.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Olaf Phillips, it's been a while since we had you on Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
Greetings and salutations.
Love the greetings and salutations. One of the greatest things ever. You doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
Did I tell you, because you and I haven't talked in a while, and this is why I needed to bring you on this hour.
Okay.
But I got a really, really weird email earlier this week. And I know that you are the publisher of Alan Greenfield's Secret Cipher of the UFO Knots. And you guys also have the Black Lodge book that you wrote together.
Yes,
So
it's the third in the trilogy. There's the Secret Cipher of the UFO-Knots, Secret Rituals of the Men in Black, and the Black Lodge book.
So I got this email from this Proton Mail account.
Encrypted.
Yes, encrypted site. All right, and you're pretty computer guru, weirdo kind of guy. Much better than I am at this stuff.
Okay.
Guy by the name of Jim Dingle sent me this email, and I need your opinion on it.
Okay.
Because I haven't read the article that was sent yet. And the reason why, well, literally, this is the truth to it. Okay. At my daytime job, because most of you know I work 2 jobs. I'm a workaholic. And when you have nothing better to do in life than be a workaholic, you know how
We
it
also have
goes.
something better to do.
Well,
But sure.
radio doesn't pay very well,
No,
so I have to
it does not.
make sure my mortgage and car payments are paid somehow.
Neither does publishing. I understand.
Yeah. So, anyways, I got this weird email from this gentleman named Jim Dingle, and the reason why I haven't read the article that he sent me yet is because my work went through an ownership change this week, and my best friend who I worked with or worked for sold my work, and so now I'm having to go more corporate.
Yes, the corporate overlords. I got it.
I could wear jeans at work up until today. I could wear jeans. And now they want dress slacks.
Yep.
And I'm like, do you know where we live? Do you understand where we live? Do you understand that I am not wearing dress slacks come wintertime when it's minus 30 degrees Celsius outside
Right.
and I have to clear snow outside? Not doing it. Not doing it. But anyways, I digress. Jim Dingle sends me this email, and considering it's a Proton Mail account, I don't think there's very many Jim Dingles in the United States. Actually, let's check Facebook. How many Jim Dingles are there?
It doesn't sound like a good name. It sounds like a pretty fake name.
Well, actually, there are a number of Jim Dingles on Facebook.
Really?
So maybe, well, I mean, if you think there's United Kingdom, in the United States, Australia, many of them.
Well,
anyways,
consider it's a Proton Mail account. Somebody's going to some lengths to hide who they are, so I suspect that's not their real name.
So this is what the email said. I recently came across a few articles I thought you might be interested in, and I'm really not sure what to do with. As a fan of Hellier, which was filmed and produced by Greg and Dana Newkirk, I know there has been a lot of theories and discussions around Terry R. Rist. So when I saw these in some 80s and 90s stuff, I was pretty surprised. I think this is the same Terry R. Rist, but I'm not sure. I thought you might know or know who would know. This is one of the articles I scanned for you, but I have a few. I'm a big fan of SOR, and hopefully you can sort this out. Confused in Oregon.
Okay.
All right. So the articles are weird because they're spelt exactly the way Terry R. Rist had his name spelt in the documentary series Hellier, which anybody could go watch on YouTube. So go youtube.com/Planet Weird, and you can get the series there for free.
Excellent series, by the way.
It is an excellent series. I really enjoyed it. I really did.
Me too.
Terry R. Rist sounds like, if you say it real fast, terrorist.
Yes, that's the belief.
Which is a little bit odd. How you're a Hellier guy. You're quite studious when weird things come up. How did Terry R. Rist come up in Hellier, and what's the tie to your friend and client Alan Greenfield?
Well, more accurately, my friend and teacher, more than anything else. He's when it comes to occultist stuff and magic, he is very much my mentor. As far as Hellier, so basically what happened in the beginning is that they got an email from some guy who claimed that he had if I recall correctly, it's been a few years, but he claimed that he had a cavern behind his house in Hellier, Kentucky, and that he was having these goblin-like creatures that were terrorizing him and his family. And it eventually led to his house being burned down. that there's some intimation that the goblins lit his house on fire, but the house burned down. And so they received this message from this guy saying, hey, at a very old email address that they didn't use anymore, dating back to when they were ghost hunters, saying, hey, I'm having this thing happen. Basically, what do you think? And that he was given their email address by an individual named Terry Rist, Terry R. Rist. And so then they go to investigate it. This guy vanishes, never comes back. But Terry R. Rist, or Terry Rist, starts emailing them very enigmatic things and clues to start them on a journey. And the journey is very much a magical journey. It seems to be a heroic journey, as Joseph Campbell would put it. But Terry Rist is he's, for lack of a better term, the guide. He's pushing them along the process. He's giving them, pointers. He's giving them suggestions to keep them on the trail, to keep them moving forward. So how this ties into Alan Greenfield, is that when Alan wrote The Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts, he decided to put in an interview that he had done with an individual that he knew named Terry R. Rist. And Terry Rist was known to write articles for things, and he was part of a group that Alan was aware of, and he knew him socially, and they would talk, and Terry had some shared interests in like the Shaver mysteries, occultism, UFOs, etc. And he seemed to be quite knowledgeable on UFOs and occultism. And this is the basic subject of the Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts and the secret rituals in the Men in Black. It was basically to use this thing called cipher number 6, the ALW cipher. To Alan was able to prove that you could use it to effectively communicate with ultra-terrestrials. And before that, since it had been found in the 70s in England, that it had been mostly used to try to derive occult-oriented communication, because it originally comes out of the Book of the Law by Crowley, and it was found in there. And so Alan wrote a book on how to use this cipher to talk to ultra-terrestrials. He thought that the interview that he had done with Rist was beneficial, so he put it in the back of the book. And then when he wrote The Secret Rituals in the Men in Black, he had a second interview that he had done with Rist, and he put that in the back too. So that's how it all ties together. Yeah.
So the family who had the Kentucky goblins,
Right.
you remember their name?
I do not remember offhand.
Well, I'm going to tell you something else that happened today.
Okay.
On Wednesday, we had a guest on named Kevin Audie, who's part of the television show Haunted Discoveries. He lives in Kentucky.
Okay.
He hooked me up with a lady named Geraldine Stith, who happens to be the daughter of the man who had the goblins at his house.
Really? So you know who they are now?
I know who they are.
That's a big mystery.
And she has agreed. Now, I don't know if it's the same family,
okay,
but her family was also bothered by these Kentucky goblins.
Okay.
And she will be appearing on this show on July 18th.
Well, that seems to be an odd timing to come right after you get a cryptic, mysterious email about Terry Rist.
Right?
Yeah.
It is very weird.
It's very weird. I have to be honest with you. That's very synchronistic.
Extremely synchronistic. Yeah. So here I am. I'm going to talk Kentucky goblins with her for our fans. I think I just said goblins instead of goblins. My goodness. What the hell is a goblin?
But I have no idea. You invented a new cryptid.
Why do people tend to think that Alan Greenfield is Terry R. Rist?
I think because nobody can find Terry Rist. And I think that people think that Alan invented Terry Rist to put something in the back of his book, or to have a nom de plume, like an alias that he could use to espouse other theories. I don't know. I think that a lot of it comes down to the fact that nobody can find Rist. He's gone. Like, there's no record of him anywhere. I mean, there's a book on Amazon that claims to be written by, the Terry Rist was one of the authors, and he was a Venusian scout pilot, but that is just simply not the case. He is not a Venusian scout pilot. He is a flesh and blood human, as I understand it. But aside from a couple of people in Hellier that are in Hellier that claim to have met Rist, including one guy in particular that said that Rist, when he met him, was a bit scary, and he was a bit of a libertarian type person, kind of survivalist kind of guy. Nobody knows who this guy is. And obviously Terry R. Rist, terrorist is not his real name. I mean, I had a magical interaction with him once, but I have no idea what he looks like or what he sounds like, but I know he's not Alan Greenfield. 100%.
How does Alan feel about being accused of being Terry R. Rist?
I think it depends on the day that you talk to Alan. Sometimes he's amused by it. Sometimes he's tired of it. I think it really depends on how he's feeling that day. I mean, think about it, right? That, for a couple of years now, nobody really cared about Terry Rist until Hellier. And after that, there are a lot of people that think Alan is Rist. And I'm here to tell you, if Alan was Terry Rist, number one, Alan is pretty fearless. He doesn't really, I don't think he needs an alias to write what he wants to write or do what he wants to do. But like I said, I think it really depends on the day, whether he's tired of it or whether he thinks it's funny. I mean, see it from his point of view, right?
I can see that. I can
Yeah.
see where it'd be offensive too, because you're always answering questions. Now,
Well,
Alan Green.
the first 100 times I think it's funny, but the second 10,000 times, it probably gets a little old. That's the way I would look at it.
Yeah. Alan Greenfield is kind of a cult hero, and I mean that
Yes.
with pun intended.
Right.
Regarding who he is, what his background is in occultism and ciphers and secret
Right.
groups and agencies and Bilderbergs, Illuminati, everything to go along with that. He knows a lot about Aleister Crowley and much more of the darker side of humanity.
Absolutely.
When you look at all of his connections and knowledge, we only got about 40 seconds here before we got to go to break.
Okay.
Are you surprised that he hasn't had any more interaction with Terry R. Rist?
No. I'm not. I mean, for a few reasons, but I'm not surprised. Rist vanished. In fact, oddly, Rist disappeared with a bunch of Alan's stuff that he had taken a bunch of. Alan had corresponded with Shaver from the Shaver Mysteries, the Arrows and the Darrows and Mount Shasta and all that, and the rock books. He had examples of the rock books that he had gotten from Shaver. And Rist was like, "Oh, can I borrow it?" And Alan's like, "Well, sure, let's all research stuff together." And he went somewhere and came back, and Rist was gone, and he had taken the stuff with him.
Hold that thought, Olaf Phillips, on who Terry R. Rist is. More coming up on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
Good job so far. Remember, our YouTube audience can hear us.
Yes, of course. Hello, YouTube audience. And no, I am not Terry Rist either.
Country Carpenter, how you doing? Lex Diaz, nice to see you. Pony Pong, good morning to you.
Any commentary yet?
Oh, let's take a look here. Um,
Oh, there's Mr. Crowley. Or is that Cowley? Oh, Mr.
that's
Cowley.
Mr. Cowley.
Oh, okay. I was
Welcome
like,
to the
oh,
show. Oh, Mr.
Alistair showed
Cowley.
up.
Yeah.
Maybe he
Philip
knows the
Backenut, good to see you. I love that song, Yennefer. It's a great guitar solo. Oh, good question. Olive, are you Pam?
What?
Are you Pam? We have a listener. I'll fill you in. She comes into our YouTube chat, and her YouTube name is I am Pam. So I respond, I am Pam. And then on Facebook 2 days ago, I put on there, I am Pam. And it's developed a lot of
Gotcha.
fun. Yeah.
I am not Pam. But I did know a Pamela who was John Teeter's girlfriend.
Oh, really? Do you believe the John Teeter story?
No, I do not. I was actually in a documentary in Italy, and I explained why I don't think it's real. And the very premise of why he came, it's all wrong. That he came to get some old IBM computer and to stop Y2K, and you don't need it. A lot of the systems that were running banking and other things, they're running on Unix. And the Unix systems they were using were 64-bit, so they weren't immune to the Y2K problem. So there was no reason for him to come back.
Right.
No, I think it was Larry Haber and his brother.
Right.
His brother studied physics, so he knew enough to fake it. And then Larry Haber, who's a lawyer, he's a very creative, ingenious person, and I think he pulled it off. But I don't think that John Teeter is real.
Right. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Appreciate that.
I mean, I could do a whole show with you on Teeter. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I don't think it's true, but no.
Yeah, you know what? We should do that. When I get back from the break, because in July we're taking a 2-week break because we need some time to revamp all of our social media and show music and everything.
Yeah, refresh.
Yeah. So we're taking that time.
Yeah, we'll do it then. Whenever you want. I'll come on your show anytime.
I know you will. That's why I love you. We had a scary incident in our town today.
Oh yeah?
Well, just outside of town, there was a big accident about 15 miles, 20 miles out of town, north of us, where a local school bus was involved in a head-on collision with an SUV that crossed the lane.
Ooh.
And there was 31 children on board.
Right.
Mostly grade 7 students.
Oh, that's true.
From two different elementary schools that were coming back from a field trip.
Okay.
And the bus rolled down an embankment.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Now, thank God, and this is where I don't care if you're religious or not, but people, we need somebody to praise. Thank God not a single child was killed.
Yeah, for sure.
There was one person killed, and it was a pedestrian who saw the accident happen, got out of his vehicle, and ran to the scene and got hit by a car.
We actually had a scary incident a few days ago. Near where I live, there's a town called Copperopolis, and we had a 3,500 acre brush fire that started, and it went straight for the town.
Oh wow!
And in California, we're actually quite famous for a Cal fire.
Yeah. Hey, hold that.
Okay. Yeah,
hold that. I apologize. We only got about 15 seconds here. But thank you tonight to Rob, Patrick, and Joe for the super chats. Thank you to everybody who's given us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do so. It helps with the algorithms. And here we go in 5 seconds. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Trying to figure out who a man named Terry R. Rist is and how it ties to this radio show. My name is Dave Scott. I'm your host of Spaced Out Radio. Hope you're enjoying your night with us on our terrestrial affiliates. If you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio or in any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and join us on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Author, researcher Ola Phillips is here. We're learning about Terry R. Rist. Is he an occultist? Is he somebody who knows things? Do we even know if he exists? Olaf, welcome back.
Thank you. It's a lot of things to figure out.
It is because of Hellier and the series, which can be seen on youtube.com/@planetweird. We seem to have a fascination with who this gentleman is, what he is about.
He's guiding them. I mean, he's essential to the show.
Very true. But the weird part about it is you've done enough studying on him to know that he's one of these, I don't know how to put it. He's either highly connected or just incredibly intuitive, that when people start talking about his name over and over again, he seems to show up.
Yeah, it's true. Especially with the Hellier crew, they get kind of, because, I mean, they shoot an entire season. You have no idea what they're doing until they put it up there. And there are times, according to the show, I mean, if you watch it, there are times they're like, I don't know if I want to do this. And then suddenly Rist pops up. People have talked about him, and then suddenly Rist pops up, and, there's an email that you get from Rist, and when you look at the email address and the one that the Newkirk's got, it's the same guy. He just seems to appear. I do know the answer to a couple of your questions, because I have for years now. Even before Hellier, when I went to publish Alan's books, I was like, who's this Rist guy? He is a real person. He's flesh and blood. He is an occultist. He's into UFOs. He's into the paranormal, right? He has some interesting political beliefs, but he is an honest to God person. I mean, he's not Alan Greenfield, and he's not a figment of anybody's imagination. He would be quite old now. I would imagine he's probably in his mid to late 70s, but he is a real person. Absolutely.
What is Terry R. Rist's relationship to Indrid Cold?
That's speculation. I mean, I don't think he's Indrid Cold, but my personal belief is that Rist, not a lot is known about Rist. I mean, most of what we know about Rist as a human comes from Alan. There is some information that the Hellier people the Newkirks have kind of figured out in communicating with them, and they've interviewed a few people that claim to have met Rist, but there's probably, if you take Alan and the people they interviewed, there's like 3 people who have ever met the guy, right? But I think he is very well connected, and I think he is intuitive, both. I mean, he is an occultist. According to Alan, he is very, very knowledgeable about occultism. I would suspect that he's probably a member of at least one magical order. Probably not like the OTO, but maybe it's the AA or the Golden Dawn, or, I mean, then you have to get into, well, is he an adherent to the left-handed path or the right-handed path, of which we do not know. But then you've got other groups like the Brotherhood of Saturn, or I mean, there's all kinds of people that he could belong to. But I think he's probably a member of at least one magical order of some kind. But he is supposedly extremely knowledgeable. And the interaction that I had with him, that it supports that notion.
Explain to people the myth, the legend of Indrid Cold.
Well, Injured Cold is this thing, I guess, ultra terrestrial that showed up around the. I mean, he's shown up at various times, but he shows up around the Mothman, and he goes to various people who have seen the Mothman and talks to them. Sometimes in a very creepy, you shouldn't have been there kind of way, and sometimes more inquisitive. But I would venture a guess that Injured Cold is an ultra terrestrial. I wouldn't put it past the idea that Rist is in contact with him. I mean, if the thing about Hellier and Injured Cold and Rist and Pan and all that stuff, is that it's all interconnected. I mean, I think Rist is guiding them somewhere. I don't know where he's guiding them. I have no way of knowing, but my suspicion is that he's part of some kind of a magical order, and that he has been directed by some group, whether it's the secret chiefs or whoever has directed him to undertake a mission, so to speak, to to have the Newkirks go through this journey. And because of their ability to film it and the quality editing that they do, that guy is very talented. The guy that does the cinematography and the directing.
Yes.
They're kind of pulling you along with, because if you're open to it, after you watch that show, you start to get the balloons, you start to get the synchronicities, you start seeing the 93s. I mean, everything that they encounter, if you are open to it and properly aligned, mentally, like you will become part of it. And I think it's a big magical working, and I think that the idea is to pull the audience along, but I don't know where it's going, and I don't know who Rist is talking to. But he could be, he could be talking to Injured Cold, and Injured Cold could be giving him instructions. And in the show, they attempted to summon Pan, which is a well-known process. And as Alan told me once, if you call Pan, he'll come. Like, if you summon him, he will show up. He's just one of those kinds of metaphysical entities that if you say, "Hey Pan," and you do it right, you say, "Hey Pan, show up," he'll appear. And I've heard stories about people who interacted with Pan, but in their case, they're obsessed with Injured Cold and the kind of connections to various things. And when they went to summon Pan, I think they actually summoned Injured Cold. That's an idea that I got from Alan, that we were kind of talking about, that process, and I think they actually summoned Injured Cold. I tend to agree with Alan about that.
So do you think Indrid Cold is a entity, spirit?
Yes.
Of an alien?
Well, I don't know what he is, so I'm just going to call him an ultra-terrestrial. He could be from the future. He could be from another dimension. He could be an alien. I really don't know. So I'm going to go with the Fortean kind of concept of the ultra-terrestrial, because we don't know what he is, right? But he seems to appear, when you call him or when you need him, and he shows up. But I think that maybe Rist is in communication with him.
I don't know about Indrid Cold. It's one of those things I would love to know. Sure. I really would.
You should get Alan to talk about Injured Cold. It's very fascinating to pick his brain about Injured Cold. I mean, he has a lot to say about it. But I think for the sake of this conversation, I think the possibility exists that the Rist might be in contact with Injured Cold, and Injured Cold could be the go-between. Because when you're dealing with somebody, non-corporeal entities like the Secret Chiefs or some sort of, elevated, illuminated master kind of deal, right? It's very rare to communicate with them directly, because to communicate with them directly, they've ascended, right? Whether it's good or bad, they've ascended. So their ability to rationalize with a human and communicate with them is very limited. It's very
Right.
metaphorical, and it's not like, hey, how are you doing? It's symbolistic and metaphorical. And so somebody like an injured cold could be a go-between. And so Rist may be talking to injured cold, who's talking to whatever illuminated masters that they ultimately report to, which I don't know who that is.
Here's the weird part for me in all of this. I'm not a part of the Hellier team. I do not speak with Greg and Dana Newkirk or anybody from the show. I mean, a couple of us follow each other, but that's about it.
Right.
Okay. I haven't spoken to them in 5-6 years, if not longer. And now, all of a sudden, out of the blue, this Terry R. Rist thing hits my email.
Right.
And I don't really understand what this has to do with me, let alone anybody else.
Okay. Well, so based on what you said, the contents of the email are, it sounds like there's some kind of article that was written by Rist. That's never been seen. Nobody knows anything about this guy. The only thing that we know about Rist is the 2 interviews in the back of Alan's books, talking to Alan, the emails that were sent to the Newkirks, and the 2 people that they interviewed that claimed that they had met Rist. That's the sum total of everything that is known about Terry Rist. Period. There's no more. You can't search for him. You can't find him. You can't talk to him. The only way Terry Rist talks to anybody is if Terry Rist chooses to email you or chooses to call you or show up at your house or whatever way he wants to talk to you. It has to be done by Rist himself. So the fact that you have an article that was written by Terry Rist, that is something that's never been seen before. That it doesn't exist. There's no reference aside from the interviews that Alan did. Those are the only written things about Terry Rist that exist. There's nothing written
Right.
by Terry Rist. So obviously somebody trusts you and thinks that you have the journalistic integrity to figure out what
Well,
this
I
is about.
appreciate you saying that. I do. I
They
appreciate you.
said it. I believe it too, but they said it. I mean, they handed it to you because they're a fan and they didn't know what to do with it. Because what do you do with it? Right? You like Hellier, you like SOR. Maybe you're at a garage sale and you find a book or whatever, or newspaper or whatever, and you're looking through it. It's 10 cents and you're looking through it, right? And there's an article by Terry Rist, and you go, well, I know who that is. That's the guy from Hellier. Okay, well, what do you do with it?
I don't know. And this is kind of what I'm wondering about. Like, what do I do with this? Should I get a hold of Greg and Dana Newkirk? Are they even going to pay attention because they're on their own journey?
Hey,
I don't know. There's a lot of
know,
things I don't know what to do right now.
I think it's it's a situation, right? Because you have something that no one's ever seen. And I don't think anybody knows what to do with it. And obviously I don't know what's in it. But I think the journalistically sound thing to do, right, is number one, you have to read it. Because
Yes.
once you read it, you're gonna know what it's about. I mean, what does Terry Rist actually write about? Like, does he write about ultra terrestrials? Is it about the Shaver mystery? Is it about Hellier? Right? What is it about? I think in reading the article, I think you can find out a lot about Terry Rist because he wrote it. And as a writer, anytime you write something, you put yourself into it. Your personality comes through in the writing, and you can see traces of who the person is behind the pen, right? But I think the other thing you do is you try to figure out if it's the same Terry Rist. I mean, I can't believe there are a lot of people out there that go by the name Terry R. Rist, but you need to try to figure out if Terry Rist actually wrote it. And I think the way you do that is that you go back to Hellier and you go and see, because on their websites, in the show, they show emails that Rist sent to them. And they're writing, I knew a woman a long time ago, she was an editor, and she said that every writer makes the same mistake over and over and over again. They will misspell the same word every time. They will miss commas. They will put in extra periods, but they're always in the same place. It's like a fingerprint. And I think that if you go watch the show, you can even fast forward it to the parts where they show the messages from Rist. If you compare that to what you've got, you should be able to determine if it's the same kind of language, like if the same person wrote it. And I would reach out to the friends of SOR. Maybe, Science Bob's got a way to use an algorithm to kind of figure out if it's the same person. But I would try to figure out if it's the same Terry Rist, but I would also suggest that in every platform you have, you call on Terry Rist to contact you, to at least say, hey, I wrote it. Or I wrote it and this is what I wrote about and this is why. Because that's the one thing that never happens. There's nothing about Terry Rist anywhere. So again, if you have an article actually written by Terry Rist, nobody's ever seen that. That doesn't exist. As of right now, there are no articles by Terry Rist anywhere. Okay, I want to highlight that no one has ever seen an article written by Terry Rist. It simply does not exist. And I can't, at least not that I'm aware of. I mean, he might have written an article about ghosts or goblins and sent it to the Newkirks. I have no idea, because I love the show, but I don't talk to them. They're busy. They've always been very nice to me, and they're amazing with Alan. They're huge fans of Alan's, and they've been very nice and kind to me. And I think they seem like great people. But if they ever got an article that was written by Terry Rist, they have never talked about it. All they have are emails, and the emails are short and they're cryptic. And so I would imagine that the same type of cryptic behavior that's in the emails should show up in the article. Although I would also suggest that the emails that they get from him are cryptic for a reason. That there is information in those emails that Rist wants you to find, but you have to figure it out, because that's the game. That's how this works. In the article, there may not be.
I'm very curious. Dave at spacedoutradio.com. Now, if you're a troll, don't go emailing me, because when it comes to this stuff, I'm not as smart as I like to think I am. So I'm pretty gullible with that.
Yeah, but also if you're a troll, you can't authenticate the article because you didn't write it. You won't know what the article is about. I have no idea what the article is about.
Very true.
All you need to do is say, did you write an article about sunspots? And if they said, yeah, I wrote the article about sunspots, but the article you have is not about sunspots, right? They should at least, with a very minor amount of prompting, I think in the email they said something about dates. A simple question is, well, gee, Terry, what did you write about in that time period? He should be able to tell you because he wrote it.
Very true. Very true. See, this is why I needed to bring you on tonight, was to talk about this stuff.
No, I know you're ending the show early, but I mean, this is I want to highlight here, this is a huge deal. No one has ever seen an article written by Terry Rist. I mean, Alan said that he wrote stuff, but nobody's ever seen it. Nobody's in possession of it. You can't search for it on the internet. I think everybody's tried to search for Terry Rist on the internet, and it just simply does not exist. The only contact I ever had with Terry Rist was of a magical nature. And what I saw doesn't equate to articles or interests or anything else. I think I saw where he was, but that's it. I didn't see him. I saw his hands on a steering wheel driving down a street. I think I knew where the street was.
Were you remote viewing that?
Yeah, basically. I attempted to do something equivalent to that, yeah. And the first time I got kicked out, like I got pushed away. Like it was like somebody shoved me away. So I did it again because I'm persistent and I was nice about it. And so the remote viewing that I saw, right, for lack of a better term, is I saw a white Toyota Corolla. I'm pretty sure it was a Corolla. I saw some hands on a steering wheel and they looked very old. You know, I mean, not very, very old, but they were old.
Right.
You know, whoever was driving it was an old man. And they were driving down a street in the desert, driving toward hills, and there were houses, and the houses had lawns and palm trees. And it looked to me like Palm Springs. Like it looked exactly like Palm Springs or Joshua Tree or one of those desert communities. I think Palm Springs. That's just my guess, but that's what I saw. And that's the sum total of what I saw. I didn't see his face. I didn't hear a word. I didn't hear anything. I just saw him driving down the street in probably a 1990s Toyota Corolla, white Toyota Corolla. Because I could see the hood.
On that note, Olaf Phillips, thank you for coming in on the UFO report. It's a little bit different than what we normally do, but thank you very much, my man. It's always good to chat with you.
Yeah.
And let's talk more about this as news comes in. We'll have to get a hold of Alan for the next little bit here. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocket in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X and hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. And soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, we are clear.
I'm telling you, it's a huge deal that you got that email.
I think so. I
It's
just got to
huge,
figure out
dude.
what. I just got to figure out what to do with it. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I got to
Yeah.
figure out what to do with it because to me, it's just, it's weird. It's
Yes.
very weird.
Well, I
And-
think it's also, it happened for a reason.
I think so too. I do think so too. So, but anyways, Olaf, stick around for a minute.
Sure.
And for our radio audience, don't forget this weekend, Sweet Robbie G is here for After Hours. So go enjoy Robbie while you can. And I will talk to you next week, everybody. Oh, Jessica Jones is here as well on Sunday, right before Sweet Robbie G's with Cryptid Huntress. Yeah, she's awesome. Amazing. Talk to you next week, everybody.
healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.